Hey everyone, this is Dan Kuj, and today I want to talk about PvP in World of Warcraft. Is this a familiar sight, sitting on the sidelines, being too intimidated by the sheer number of guides and people just yelling at you on how to get good and you need better legendaries and better gear in order to participate in PvP? Well, I'm here to help you with some tips on how to just get started as a complete beginner, seeing how PvP now, especially in Shadowlands, is very intimidating. And with all the exposure that Shadowlands has gotten between big streamers and YouTubers, it's created a bit of a culture where you need to be the best and have the best in order to participate in any level of PvP, which is pretty disheartening. So these tips should hopefully help you out, especially for complete beginners. It won't be what's the best rotation, what's the best legendary. These are just tips that I found useful and I want to share for complete beginners that will hopefully get you involved and on your way to getting better at PvP. Tip number 1 is movement. When we all get started, we typically use the WASD keys to move our character forward, back, left, right, while using the right mouse button to control the camera. That's just how we're taught, and that's how most games are. There's a more effective way to move your character, and it's really useful for PvP, especially because you're fighting other people that are trying to, kill you. So I'm sure it's happened to everyone where, maybe you're a warlock and you're about to get a chaos bolt and then someone just walks through you and then it gets canceled because you need to face your target. It could be frustrating, especially when you fight more experienced players that are going to do that to you constantly. So you could actually use your left mouse button and your right mouse button together in order to make your character spin very quickly and move forward. So you can essentially control your character's movement just by using the mouse. And this comparison video here will have both. One using the WASD, how we're normally playing, and then the left mouse button and the right mouse button alone. And it may be subtle, but you can tell the difference in speed. And this is great when you are fighting other players, and even in higher levels of PvE content when you're doing mythics or raiding. It's definitely useful, so I highly recommend you get used to it and practice it because it will help you tremendously. Tip number 2 is targeting. While clicking a target is okay, you can't really do it effectively if you have to right click your target while you're using your mouse to move your character. So I use tab targeting, but the problem with that is you automatically target the nearest enemy. But in arenas and battlegrounds where everyone's summoning something, you need to be able to cycle through that effectively. And one of the ways, or the easiest way to do it, is go under Keybindings and targeting and change that to target nearest enemy to target nearest enemy player when you're in any form of PvP. And that'll help you from tab targeting into someone's pet when you're trying to stun someone or interrupt someone. And that alone has made me so much more effective in PvP. Just remember to change it back when you're outside of PvP or you will have trouble targeting enemy mobs. Tip number 3 is Keybindings. Under the same keybinding settings, you can see another area where it has action bar and multi-action bar. And you may have done a few of these, or you may not know about these at all, but you can essentially rebind some of your keys, which means your number 7 key, instead of pressing the number 7 on your keyboard or using your mouse to click a skill, you can rebind number 7 to shift 1, for example. And that brings it to, you want to essentially do less clicking. You never really want to click any of your spells. While that's okay in most forms of PvE content, when you're facing other players, you really need to be able to react quickly. So for a Windwalker monk, for example, that could be, I need to press my Touch of Karma immediately after a trinket. With the way PvP is now, a rogue will kill me in 1 second if I don't do that quickly. So you want to be able to just not have to click, and it will take a little bit of trial and error because everyone's preference is subjective. So this is something you want to work on, especially if you're going to start getting serious about PvP. You want to have essentially every spell or skill you want to use as something bound on your keyboard that you can easily reach. So shift 1 through 6, for example, is easy for me. So go through this at your own pace, and don't get too frustrated if you're having a little difficulty, because it does take some getting used to, but it's not too bad once you just make it a habit. Tip number 4 is add-ons. Now, add-ons aren't exactly mandatory, but if you want to get serious about PvP, it is really helpful. And I personally use 3 add-ons: Details, Gladius EX, and Omnibar, and I'll have a link in those in the description below. Everyone has a different preference to this. Some people love getting as many add-ons and having these fancy user interfaces where it looks like they're playing inside a spaceship. I prefer just to have kind of as clear of a screen as I can, so this is very subjective and up to you. But if you do want to get serious about PvP and even some forms of PvE, they can be really useful. So I highly suggest going through curseforge.com and just looking at all the different add-ons they have, and just look into them and see what would work for you. I like to keep it simple, and I just want to see what other players have when their trinkets off cooldown, or when they just use the stun, or things like that, which are useful for PvP. So just go through and see what works for you, and read the settings when you're downloading some of these, because some of them are very simple to full-on complicated. So you do want to make sure it's working right and tailor it to your specific needs, because it can get overwhelming, much like everything else in PvP at first. Tip number 5, avoid toxicity. One of the hardest things about getting into PvP is to just find people to play with. But then when you do find someone to play with, how do you find people that aren't going to be super toxic? And what's been working for me so far is I just make my own pre-made groups now. I used to go through the pre-made groups much like everyone else, but I just started to run into a lot of frustration of either really just nasty descriptions of people, clearly looking for someone else to do all the work for them. Or then some other ones where, oh, chill twos, anyone welcome. And then you join and they boot you as soon as you lose your first game or you lose your second game. It can be really frustrating. So I just started making my own and being really clear in the description. For example, if you're truly trying to just get into, let's say, arena, and you're a beginner and you wanna get better gear, you wanna learn the game, put that in the description, put that in the details. You're gonna weed out a lot of the people that don't want to deal with that. And you will run into the occasional bad apple, but don't let that discourage or frustrate you, because there are people out there who are in the same position as you and just want to learn and get better or get better gear. And I personally have made a few new friends just by taking fresh level 60s and just playing some games and having fun and willing to just learn how to fight other classes and just have a good time, laugh when a rogue mage instantly kills the both of us somehow in less than 2 seconds. Like, it's all a learning process. So hopefully these tips help you kind of as a base on just getting started with PvP and just working on some little things before you start learning more about rotations and how to fight certain classes and compositions and things like that. I personally think PvP in World of Warcraft is one of the more fun aspects of the game, if not the most fun. And I think we need to encourage more players to participate rather than shun people away because they may not have the best gear or have gladiator experience or something like that. So if any of you have any other tips you might want to share for complete beginners trying to get into PvP, or some of your experiences getting into PvP, I'd love to hear in the comment section below. I will look to have some more content in the near future, but in the meanwhile, thanks so much for watching and have a great day.